Hey everyone, it's Ollie here, and we're going to take a look at 12 tips to build amazing bar charts. So we're going to walk through some of these from like beginner level all the way up to some intermediate bar charts. We're excited to help you take these bar charts from a kind of boring staple of your dashboards and turn them into something really cool, engaging, something with a couple of layers. So that's where we're going to go today. This workbook is available. It's in the description below. You're welcome to download it and follow along. We'll have the demo workbook and it'll have some built-in, ones as well. If you've got any questions, pop them in the chat and we'll get back to you as soon as we can. And then I think that's everything. If there's anything else that I've forgotten, I'll mention it as we go. Okay. So the first thing that we're going to take a look at is just maybe it's a best practice, but it's worth thinking about how you're going to orientate your bar charts. So going from this like top to bottom idea, the vertical layout of our bar charts works well for lists. Most things, I guess, I would put in this this vertical layout. Whereas the horizontal layout, I would most often use for time. So like in this case, it's just normal for us to think of a timeline being from the start on the left to the finish on the right, So it's worth working that in as well, just knowing that's probably how your end users are going to think about this data too. You could say ages as well. Ages could be a nice one, like going from 0 to like 85 plus or something on the side. That would work. And maybe a geography one, like from west to east or, something like that. But I'm not married to that idea. But just think about how you can orientate those bar charts well. Okay. Then let's take a look at some conditional coloring. So this can be a nice way to elevate bar charts from just showing, in this case, how much did we sell to how much did we sell and what dollar amount from each transaction was profitable. So in this case, we've got this little orange part of the bar is not profitable. The blue part is profitable. And so we're able to split those two up. So in order to do that, we would create a calculated field. Bring this window over here. We'll call it profitable transactions. And we're just going to say, hey, our profit is greater than 0. We'll click OK, drop this onto color, and there we go. Nice. Now maybe we should swap these colors around, so that they look a little bit more intuitive. So now we can see $41,000 of our sales in the central region for chairs were unprofitable. Very useful. You could also flip it to say, instead of looking at the individual transactions, what about the bars themselves? So in this case, we're looking at profitable and unprofitable bars. To build that, we're basically just going to tweak our calculation. So this is going to be profitable overall, and we're going to say, cool, is my sum of profit greater than 0? Click OK, drop it onto color. Very nice. And again, maybe we choose some nicer colors. So true blue, false like this. Okay, cool. I think that's a nice way to, encode a little bit more information in your bars. You could also take that conditional logic and take it one step further to do conditional labels as well, which I think is a nice complement to this kind of thing. So for instance, you can see currently our labels are only showing up for our unprofitable bars, which is pretty cool. So we don't need them for the profitable ones. We're highlighting unprofitable. So how exactly are we going to do that? Well, we're going to take this profitable overall. Let's duplicate that and edit it. Okay, so this is going to be profitable overall labels. And actually, we're going to do unprofitable. Okay, and now we're just going to wrap up some conditional logic in here. So we're going to say, hey, if our sum of profit is greater than 0, is less than 0, then return my sum of profit. And now if the sum of profit is greater than 0, then there's going to be no label shown at all, right? Nothing's going to be outputted. But if it's less than, then we'll see what that looks like. So unprofitable, let's drop that on labels. Okay, that's kind of crazy. Let's format that. Right click and format. Numbers, currency custom. Let's make this dollars. Thousands. Interesting. There we go. It's just editing the wrong side. So currency custom, dollars. I don't need decimals. We can leave it like that. Maybe display units, we could put thousands if we wanted to save some space. You can always change your your negative values like that if you prefer that. So that's a nice little tweak. Okay. The third thing that you can do to take your bar charts to the next level is these multi-axis bar charts. So in this case, we're taking a look at our sales, our profit, and our quantity all aligned next to each other, which is super interesting. So maybe over here, we can show our mark labels. And now what's useful is we can say, hey, let's take a closer look at chairs, and see how they compare across these multiple measures in a single view, which is really nice. Here's machines, here's bookcases. So it's a nice way to wrap in a little bit more information. A little bit later, I'll show you how to set up a custom sort on this so that you're sorting each of these. You can sort each of these ascending or descending by your own choice, as opposed to just, using these little buttons down here, which your end users might not know is available to them. Okay. So really all we need to do that is just drag the measures we want onto columns like this: sum of sales, sum of profit, sum of quantity. Nice. Maybe a little descending sort just to set us up with sales. Okay, tip number 4 is moving our axis headers to the top. Now, the first time I saw this, I was so annoyed. I don't know if you know this, but by default, Tableau can't move your axis headers to the top. It's not a default option. You can't right-click, move to top. So here we've got a little indication that, yeah, we've got sales on the top, and it looks very much like our subcategories one. In order to do it, all you have to do is build a little text field, in this case called sales, that will just contain the word sales. And I'm going to drag it on before sum of sales, and there it is. So nice. We can format this. We can make it bold. I think it's Tableau semi-bold is the normal one. And then let's make it black. Paint. Oh, keep editing the wrong one. There we go. And so, for all intents and purposes, that looks pretty good. And obviously I've hidden the axis down at the bottom, so we don't have that sort of extra clutter at the bottom. But if you did want the axis plus the name in this case would sit at the top, the axis would be at the bottom. You would edit the axis and remove sum of sales from the name. So it would just be blank, and then you could work with it from there. However, if you want the axis on the top, it's not so easy. You got to work around it a little bit. So here's what we'd do. We would sort of start here, and then we'd make 2 dual axis charts in this case. So I'd take my sum of sales over, my sum of profit over, and then make both of these dual axis like this. Now I've got my 2 axes here. Now you can't just right click and uncheck show header, because that's going to hide the header for both of these. So it's probably going to be better just to double click, remove sales, then go to tick marks and check none. And then do the same here for profit. So remove profit from the axis title, tick marks, and none. Now it's not perfect. There's a little bit of white space here because technically there's an axis that we've just hidden as opposed to just removing it. However, it's going to get you close enough. Maybe in this case, this to me seems a little bit cramped up here. We could space it out a little bit if we wanted to, but that's probably nitpicking. So if you have multiple columns, you got to go the dual axis route. But if you have a single column, you can just go the little text field route. Nice. Okay, what about some bar in bar charts? These are super useful when you are comparing measures, especially comparing measures on the basis of a goal. So in this case, we're saying, hey, what are our sales for 2024? How do they compare to our sales for 2024, our sales target for 2024? So think like, what's our current click-through rate in comparison to our target click-through rate, or conversion rate, or what is our current check-ins versus target check-ins, whatever it might be, something like that. This kind of chart, this bar and bar chart, works super, super well. The thin bars are our current sales. The thick gray bars are our targets. And then we've just color coded these by whether they've met the target or not. Okay, so let's try that. So we've set up our little sales 2024 over here. Let me show you what this field looks like. So let's edit. Looks like this. So if the year of my order date is 2024, return my sales. You'll do this to get a measure for a particular dimension, member of a dimension across the board. So like you could say, if my category is furniture, then sales. That's going to give you all your furniture sales, So this common logic is applied throughout Tableau. So we're just going to sum it because I want the total for all of those. Then we'll click OK. Then I also made this sales target field, which is literally just exactly the same, but give me 2023 instead of 2024. Times it by 10% because I thumb sucked that number. Let's just go with 10%. We're aiming for 10% growth, and then sum that. Okay, so let's see how that's going to work in our chart. So I'm going to take the sales target and I'm going to drag it down. Oh, actually, I'm going to drag it to the opposite end of the axis. So sales 2024 is at the bottom, dragging it to the opposite end of the axis where I just see a single green bar, and I'll drop it in like this. Okay, so now I've got my two axes. You can see that the axes aren't actually synchronized. So here, this one goes to 95, this one goes to 110. Let's just make sure that they line up properly. So I'm going to right click, synchronize that axis, 110 and 110. Great. Now we are going to format this thing. So because all the information is in there, we just need to format it. So I'm going to go to the all marks card over here. I'm going to hold down Command on a Mac, Control on Windows, and I'm going to drag measure names onto size as well. If for some reason, so let's double check, this looks correct. My sales target is the big gray one. My sales 2024 is the little skinny bars. That's fine. If for some reason they get switched around, like your sales target is the thin bar and they're behind each other, you can move marks to the front or back by right-clicking on the axis and saying move marks to front. And you can invert the size by double-clicking on the size legend over here and then clicking reversed and applying that, right? So those are your two options to sort of play around with things. Then you'll remember that in this case, I had this false and true color encoding. So let's build one of those. Create a calculated field, and we'll call this exceeded sales target. And I'm just going to say, hey, if my sales for 2024 exceeded my sales target for 2024. This would work on its own. Sales 2024 exceeds sales target 2024. It's just going to give me a true or false. So if you want to show the color legend as well, maybe you want to say like exceeded sales target, did not exceed sales target, something like that. If that's the case, we'd probably want to say, if my sales of 2024 is greater than my sales target of 2024, then exceeded target, else we can say missed target and end there. Okay, cool. Let's click OK. Let's drop this onto color for which one? This is the sales target for the sales 2024. Let's drop that onto color. Nice. Let's go change up these colors a little bit so they fit in with everything else we've done. So exceeded target is good, missed target is bad. The last thing maybe is I'm going to drop the opacity of this gray. It's fine, it's totally fine. But to me, I don't need it to be too bold. So let's do that. And then I think these two axes aren't adding anything. I don't need both of those in there at once. So I think I'm just going to right click and uncheck the sales target of 2024, because probably that information is going to come across in a title or something like that, where you're saying, how did our 2024 sales compare to our target sales or something? And so people are kind of going to pick up which is the current sales and the target. Okay. Then the other cool option that we can work in here is some color changing labels. I was working with a client a little bit earlier this week who was so frustrated to learn that in order to build color changing labels, you're not trying to build one complicated calculated field that incorporates this color change, whatever it is. you're actually just trying to build multiple fields for all the different colors that you want. Okay, I'll show you exactly how that works. So here, the idea is that we don't want to change the color of the bars because perhaps that color encoding needs to be consistent all the way down. The only thing we want to change here is the color of the actual label. So that can be really nice. So here we're keeping the region colors all the way down, which is what we want. But the bars need to indicate profitable. I mean, the labels need to indicate profitable or unprofitable. So let's do that. So I'm going to create a calculated field. I'm going to call this labels profitable. I'm going to say, hey, if my sum of profit is greater than 0, then show me my sum of profit and end. Okay, that's all you got to do because when sum of profit is less than 0, you won't see anything. This calculated field isn't going to output anything, but when the sum of profit is greater than 0, then it's going to output the sum of profit. So it's only going to occur if it's profitable. So we're going to click OK and duplicate this. Let's edit this, and we're going to say unprofitable. Let's take off the copy and swap this little operator. Okay. Now the idea is that only one of these fields is going to show up at once. So either the profitable field is going to return sum of profit or the unprofitable field is going to return sum of profit, which is great. So let's drop this onto labels, both of those fields onto labels. And you can see there's no duplication anyway, right? Here are negative ones, here are positive ones. So a little bit of tweaking, formatting. Let's click on the little 3 dots after text. Let's put these guys right next to each other. That's all we need. I'm going to make it bold. Unprofitable and profitable. I think it's like that blue we've been using pretty much. Okay, let's apply. Let's see what that looks like. Okay, this orange is probably a little bit dull. Let's go there. Yeah, not bad. Cool. I mean, you can get a lot more technical than this. You know, you can work in your own set of conditions and, you know, ways that you want to apply it. So you've got like a red, amber, green status, something like that. Totally work them into these bars. It's a great way of doing it. Okay. Then a nice way to encode some more information in your bar charts is with a view and tooltip. If you're not sure how this works, the idea is that you have a simple bar chart. You want more information in there, but you don't want to overwhelm your end user with extra worksheets in the dashboard, or perhaps you're tight on space, you know, something like that. So what you do is you use your tooltip to encode some more information. So now you can see it's filtering based off of the actual bar that I'm hovering over. And I'm able to get the sales information by year, in this case, for each subcategory. But I don't actually need that information like available to my end user immediately. So it's really nice to reduce that like visual clutter, the visual overwhelm. This also works very well with exact figures. So if you wanted to build a text table in here with a set of transactions or something, the exact values that you wanted to show, that would also work well in a tooltip. I guess my caveats with view and tooltip is you don't want it to be too busy, have too much information, or be too big. Like otherwise the view isn't going to render, or at least it's going to struggle to render. So it can slow down the performance of your dashboard if it's too much. So watch out for that. But mostly they're pretty cool. So they're a nice addition into our dashboards. To build it, it really is as simple as saying, cool, I'm going to build this little view, right? So this is just our sales by order date. And you'll notice that I don't need the category field in here. This one, tooltip category on filters, was auto-generated from the last sheet when we added it into the tooltip. So I don't have to worry about adding a filter in here. So here I'm going to go over to tip 7. This is from our last tooltip, which we'll clean out. So I added a little title in here, and it's just a simple text field. You can add it or not add it, doesn't matter too much. Then I'm going to click insert, go to sheets, and right down at the bottom is my tooltip. Okay, let's click OK. Okay, split my title in half. That's what it looks like. Now, You can change the width and height of this tooltip if you like. You don't need to. In general, a simple sheet will fit into 300 by 300. But if you have like some monster sheet that you're trying to put in there, that's how you change it. Okay, you just change the width and height, experiment a little bit, see how it goes. So we can preview and see. Oh yeah, that fits. It works well. And there we go. Very nice. Okay, fantastic. Just wanted to take 2 seconds to say, if you're wanting to like ramp up your Tableau experience, you're looking for a structured path to learn Tableau, I think this is a fantastic way of doing it. We've got a whole suite of classes to do exactly that. Eric and I work with clients often in real world Tableau problems, and we've built these classes to try and help you shortcut the theory of learning Tableau to actually applying it with some great real world examples based off of our experience. We'll give you the stuff that you really need to know, the important workarounds, the important hacks, the important things to know about how Tableau thinks, as opposed to just giving you, the normal textbook answer of how to do things. So our Mystery to Mastery 1 and 2 are our broad foundational classes. This is our basics class. This is our intermediate class, Mystery to Mastery 2. And then we actually built 2 9-hour classes on Tableau calculations. If you take a standard Tableau class, you're going to get an hour or 2 on calcs. We just felt like there's so much that we want to talk about in calculations. So this calculations 1 is 9 hours. It's broad. It's looking at all the families of calculations in Tableau. And then our second one is looking at sets, parameters, and LODs, primarily focusing on real world application and examples, because these are cool tools, but do you know when to use them or not? Maybe not. If you wanted to take multiple classes, the training passport is the best way to do it. You get 50% off all our classes, plus a free office hour. We get to know you. It's like 64 hours of live instruction. You get access to our class recordings for 2 weeks. It's, after each class. It's fantastic. But if you just need one-off help, an office hour with either me or Eric is totally on the cards. We try and make ourselves available within 24 to 48 hours so that we can actually solve your problems soon and that you're not waiting. So we'd be super happy to do that. Okay. Then for our last few tips, these ones are some cool ones, but this one does come with a disclaimer, which I'll tell you now. So the idea is that we've got a bar, and we've got 2 labels for this bar. So you can see where the first label is and where the second one is. It's pretty cool. Okay, I like that a lot. You'll notice normally what we would have is something like this. I didn't break it. So we'd have something like this, where you'd have your country, column, and then the bar, and then you would click label, show mark labels, and it would look something like this by default. So we're just going to tweak that a little bit. Now, I want this average life expectancy, but I also want a country or region label. So let's do, the first step is to build a little dual axis chart like this. So if you're on a Windows Control and Drag, Mac Command and Drag, right click, dual axis, so it looks something like this. Let's make sure they're synchronized, and I'll hide those headers. We don't really need them. Then I'm going to go to my first one, my first marks card, the life expectancy, and just uncheck show mark labels. I don't need mark labels for any of these just yet. We'll do our own. Then I'm going to hold down Command, Control on a Windows, drop that onto label. So that's country. And then I'm going to drop the country field. So I'm going to click on label, this little labels tab, and I'm going to left align this. Okay, that looks fine. And maybe we'll make it bold so it stands out a little bit. Then I'll go to my second marks card. And on this one, I'm going to hold down Command and drag my average life expectancy on label. And then same idea. This is right aligned, and I will make it bold. Nice. We could play around with the text color or the font, whatever, in order to get that just right. But that's the idea here. So I think that's pretty cool. I do have a disclaimer, which is when your bars get really short, like here, we've got a fasteners one. That's pretty small. Also, envelopes is dangerously small. they're going to get cut off. So as long as your bars are sort of the same relative length, it'll work well. But where you have bars that are really not of the same relative length, they'll probably get cut off. Remember, it would probably look something like this to start with, right? So that's the one thing to keep in mind. Just play around with it a little bit. Think through the ways that your data will be presented and then see if it'll work. Okay. Tip number 9 is these labels above the bars. This works super well. It's really cool. I think it looks neat. It works really well as like an accent piece. So not necessarily the main visual, but it's really nice as like an addition to what's going on in the rest of our dashboards. So it's a little trick to get our labels like this, because when we have something like this, if we have our labels there, let's uncheck show header. I click on label and go to alignment. Even if I click this like top align, it only bumps it up a little bit. It doesn't really give me too much space. I can try and middle align and bottom align, but it really doesn't do what we're looking for, which is bump the labels above the bars. And even if I drop the size of the bars, you'll see it gets kind of close, but it's still kind of in the middle of each bar. So we're going to edit it just a touch. I'm going to click on the label tab, the 3 dots over here, and then I'm literally just going to press enter and add a period and make it white. I couldn't believe it when I saw this. We found this in someone's dashboard. I'll try and link it back because it's such a cool trick. I want to give them credit, but I've forgotten their name now that I'm talking to you. So hopefully I can do that. But it's such a cool little trick. And this is all it takes, a little period, a white period. I'm gonna click apply, and there you go. I think that looks really nice. It's pretty clean. And then of course you can edit, like if for instance you don't want the G or the Y like coming down onto the bar exactly, you can always make the bars a little bit smaller. But perhaps you don't want to make them too small, whatever it would be. But still, I think it's very cool. Nice little tip to make sure that you've got this beautiful, clean set of bars. I like that. Okay, tip 10 is a throwback to our multi-axis bar charts. And in this case, what is so useful is we have inbuilt sorting options. When we originally started building this, I think it was tip 3, our end users have access to these little sorting buttons at the bottom of each axis. However, the downside is a lot of people don't know that they're there. They only show up when you hover over the axis. And if you're not very familiar with Tableau, you probably don't know to look for them at all. So it's nice to be able to sort of put this sorting into someone's hands, which is pretty cool. Give them those options. Now, what we've done is add in this little sort by parameter. So here we're sorting by profit, we're sorting by sales, we're sorting by quantity. Very, very cool. So in order to build it, what do we need? Well, we're going to build a parameter first. And I'm going to call this sort by selection. We'll make it a string, that's fine, and we'll say sales, profit, and quantity. Okay. Click OK, and show this parameter. Very nice. Okay, now we could say, so this is going to be sort by field. Now we could say, okay, in the case of my sort by selection, when sales, then sum of sales. Okay, this could work. And it would certainly change the sorting, right? We would basically right click on sum of state or province, we'd say sort, we'd make this field based, and then the field we'd choose would be this one, the sort by field. However, whenever you set up this field based sorting with a field like this, just like our normal field, right? This is field-based sorting. I still have my sort by options at the bottom here, of each column. So even if you get the sorting just right, people will still be able to change that sort on their own, to change it to quantity descending or cancel the sort. And so sometimes you want more granular control. So in order to force Tableau to make sure it sticks to the sort order that you've chosen, you can say when sales, then, and then use the little rank function, then rank sum of sales. Rank is going to make sure every bar gets a rank from 1 being the biggest bar all the way down to the smallest one. And even if you try and change the sorting option at the bottom, it's not going to work because we've got rank in the view. And I'll show you exactly what I mean now. So we'll say profit, oops, not when, then rank sum of profit, okay. And then when quantity, then rank sum of quantity. And let's end. Okay, super nice. Let's click OK. This guy needs to be discrete because I don't want bars. I don't need an axis being generated. So let's drag my sort by field before state or province. And you can see now this sort by is on sales. So this is giving me the rank sum of sales, which corresponds to this bar. When I change it to profit, it gives me the rank sum of profit for these guys, and then rank sum of quantity for those guys. Very nice. Then I'm going to right click and uncheck show header. So the sort by field is still in the view, but I've taken my multiple axis bar chart up a notch, making sure people can sort by a field and not undo our sort at a later stage. Pretty nice. Okay, lastly, no, not lastly, second to last, penultimately, our asymmetric drill down. Oh man, I misspelled it in the other one, changed it, and then, changed it in this sheet and on this one. Okay, asymmetric drill down. An asymmetric drill down is super valuable when you have a little bit of space. You don't want to overwhelm your end user with loads of options. But you want to make sure they're able to see it if they want. Now it's called an asymmetric drill down because when I click on one of these regions, they drill down one at a time. So I'm not drilling down all the regions at the same time. It's not like I've got a toggle that's saying, do I want to see regions or states? I'm saying, cool, I want to see just the states or just the regions. I mean, just the states for this region, just the states for the central region, for the south region, whatever it would be. And then I cancel it, we go back here. So it's really nice. If you want to build it, we'd probably start with a view that looks something like this. And there are a couple of steps. The first would be to create a parameter. And here we just call this like select a region, something like that. And our allowable values will be all. You could type out all the regions that you want. That would be fine. However, I know I'm 3 steps ahead currently, and I know that when we set up our worksheet action and we cancel the selection in the worksheet action, I want the action to return no value so that we go back to just seeing the regions and no states. If I have allowable values in a list, then there's actually no option for no value because the only options that will be available are the states. I guess you could put in your own one, that would be none, but it's much easier to just say allowable values all and click OK. And we can show that parameter if we want. Okay, so you can see it's 1 at the moment. Now let's create a calculated field. And this is going to be our states to show or states to display or something. And we're basically just going to say, okay, if my select a region parameter equals the region field, then show me my states. Else, and now I'll just put these 2 quotation marks like right after each other. And is my data type incorrect for this one? Select a region. Yeah, it's float. Okay, let's change it to string quickly so that it matches up. So if my select a region parameter equals one of my regions, show me the states or provinces in that region. Otherwise, just return like this literal 1 character because that means that Tableau has to return something. So if I didn't have this little else space, space, quotation mark, then Tableau would return a null. And then I would have a little column that showed me the states for these guys if I selected West, and then just nulls for everything else, which I don't want. So I want this little space. We'll say else, quote, quote, click OK. States to show can go over here. So just so we can test it out a little bit, let's type East. Okay, there we go. Very nice. And now I'm going to remove the state province field. We don't need it. We know how thing works. So lastly, what we're going to do is we're going to add an action to this so that when I click on my worksheet, when I actually click on the region, then it's going to update the parameter. It's going to feel dynamic, and then we'll be able to work with it, which is great. If you're in a dashboard, you could just add a dashboard action. That'll be fine. In our worksheet, we're just going to add a worksheet action. So they're exactly the same pretty much in terms of how you do it. So worksheet actions. Let's add an action here. I'm going to change parameters, and I'm going to call this update region selection. I'll run it on select. My target parameter is going to be the one that we just made, which is select a region. My source field, okay, the source field is the region field. My source field means if there are multiple dimensions in the view, which one do I want Tableau to use to update the parameter? So I'm going to say region. And then clearing the selection will set the value to, I'm just going to input a space. So that, remember my little select a region field over here, or states to show field, will say the select a region parameter equals this little space, so it doesn't equal a region. Then state. So there's nothing to display. Fine. Then it'll feel like we're canceling it. So we'll click OK and OK. And there we go. Beautiful. That works super well. So take your bar charts from a simple display and add an extra level of detail in there with an asymmetric drill down. Okay, lastly, our little tip here is our max one. Max one is one of our faves. Basically, it's Tableau handles heat maps and highlight tables really well when you're using measures. But the minute you try and put a dimension onto color, it freaks out. So here you can see we do have a dimension on color. Is profit greater than 0? Well, false or true. And you can see how that's colored. So Tableau would be fine if we had something like this. Suppose, okay, let's go back to the start and say, let's put sales on color, and then change this from text to square, just like you would for a standard highlight table, right? So that looks okay. But what happens if you said, let's take our profit is greater than 0. Do we have that here? Yeah, profitable overall. Okay, so let's put profitable overall on color. Now you can see, although I haven't changed anything in the actual chart, it's gross. And that's because this is a Boolean field as opposed to giving me a color spectrum. Not nice. So no need to panic. This is actually pretty easy. We're going to create a calculated field here called max of 1, which is literally just going to be max 1. I mean, technically you could do this with a whole range of different fields, but max 1 is the one we're going for. We're going to click OK. I'm going to take max of 1. I'm going to drop it on size. Then I'm going to change my mark type from square to bar. Boom. By default, it might look something like this, or just pick some random size. So just drag it all the way to the end. And then you can always change the colors of, oops, not there. You can change the colors of your borders if you want. Oh, let's get some white borders in, or whatever it is. And you can change the colors of the actual, true false here, which is really nice. So that can save you a lot of frustration, right? When you don't just want your measures in there, but you want measures and dimensions. Okay, that's pretty cool. So those are our 12 tips for our awesome bar charts. Hopefully there was something useful for you in there. I think bar charts are fantastic, and with a little bit of imagination, creativity, and some Tableau skills, you can take them from boring old bar charts to something that's super useful, that's got nice UI, that's fun to work with, that adds great value to your end users and their dashboards. If you've got any questions, pop them in the chat below. We'll get back to you as soon as we can. And if you've got any suggestions, cool ways that you've changed a bar chart and it's been super effective and we missed it, drop it in here because we'd love to know as well. That's fantastic. Okay. Thanks so much for joining us. We'll see you next time.